Okay, thank you. So just to introduce the panel for those of you that don't know, so coming from this side over here, we have Dr. Zhen Zhu from the Kent Business School. Zhen Zhu is a senior lecturer in big data analytics and the director of studies for the MSc Business Analytics at the Kent Business School. So thank you so much for joining us. Zhen has done some great talks around the use of AI, so I thought it'd be great to have him on the panel. We also have who you've just seen give the great talk. So thank you, Matt, as well for joining us. We also have Professor Shuzhan Li. Professor Shuzhan Li is the director for the Institute of Cybersecurity for Society. Shuzhan has been a professor at the business school since 2017. Computing, sorry, I do apologize. Yeah. You're welcome. So I think he's going to be a great addition to the panel. So thank you very much. We have Debbie Kemp as well from the business school. Debbie is one of the co-organisers today and has been one of the leading lights in kind of adopting the use of AI. Was one of the first academics to trial using it with all of her students. So thank you as well, Debbie. And we have obviously Alexander and Tom, who also gave the talk at the start. So thank you so much, everyone. So we have probably about 15 minutes to kind of go through some questions. So I guess there's two ways that we can do this. We can either start off and I can introduce some, or if anyone does have a question, if you'd like to raise your hand and you can kick things off. So it's entirely to you. So if you do have a question, please raise your hand.
Hi. So you said with the video game you made, you made the effort of making sure it was mostly human led and 15% was the app, was the AI. But could you theoretically just tell the AI to do 100%?
At least in terms of what's available to the public. So for instance, we developed the game in Unity. I spent a great deal of time assembling all of these free levels. It was a lot of what felt like grunt work, just moving objects around, kind of building up these levels. Kind of, it felt like I spent an entire day just putting litter on the street in one of these levels. So I would say, not at the moment. We don't have some kind of generative AI for building game environments, or as far as I know, comparatively something like sound. So I suppose if that's an answer to your question.
Yes, thank you. I do have a question from a very practical question from a teaching perspective. I'm responsible for a media school at the German private university, and we do have master's and bachelor's courses in media management, marketing, but also in creative industries, game design, etc. And I would love to for our lecturers to embrace those new technologies, but how do I get them up to speed and keep them up to speed? Maybe you have some practical tips and insights.
I honestly think that the biggest obstacle is the people themselves. Either an institution has to be the one to take the leap, or the individuals have to. But the irony of all the criticism of AI is that those who are criticizing it the most are probably exactly the people that should be using it, because they're the ones that are going to essentially overcome the criticism through interaction with it critically. But I wouldn't buy them a subscription. Buy them a subscription and show them the way. I think is probably the best way. It's as previous comments have been made. We're still in the very, very early stages of this. So I mean, the question that was previously asked was how can you tell if something is done 100% or 80%? At the end of the day, I think the answer should be more if it's done or not. I don't know.
Did you as well?
Yeah, if I could just add as an academic who I've embraced AI, but it's not my natural forte. I am very much a traditional academic. I'd rather get out post-it notes and etc. So, you know, my story very briefly was that we, as the director of the MBA, we were teaching a module on delivering innovation in January of this year. And of course, ChatGPT landed overnight over Christmas, and it felt really inappropriate to be running a delivering innovation module without embracing AI. So myself and my colleague, Thomas, who's actually hosting in the other room, literally overnight sort of rewrote the module, and we embraced it in such that we taught the students how to use it, and we encouraged them. But we encouraged them from the point of view of, we put it into the exam, we totally changed our assessment. But again, because this was very early days, there were no university guidelines at all. And I was really concerned that I was opening the floodgates and it was all on me, and colleagues would be freaked out by this, because of course, once we taught it in that module, every subsequent model on the MBA, the students knew how to use it. So this was a very much brave new world. So, so that gives you a little bit of context, but I suppose my approach now and what we're trying to encourage colleagues to do, certainly in the business school, is give them a little bit of space, I would say, because for many, this isn't their, you know, their area of expertise. It can be quite concerning for colleagues. You know, how do we deal with this? So I say give them a bit of space, give them training. But to me, I suppose the motivation is, particularly in our area, you know, in a business school, is this is going to massively affect employment in the future. And the whole idea of students coming for an education is we're preparing them for the outside world. So for somebody like, you know, what you guys have done was amazing. I hope you got a distinction for that piece of work. I'm sure he probably did. But the point is, you know, Tom's going to go out there now and have these skills, which will set him ahead of all the other competitions. So as educators, you know, we should aspire to be ahead of the game with this. And certainly I'm getting way out of my depth on this, but I'm learning almost on a daily basis. And I think conferences like this really help as well. Working with colleagues such as Bill, who very kindly held my hand. But, you know, it's having that understanding that this will concern many colleagues, and we don't know where to go with this, but we have to embrace it. We have to show that it affects all areas. So that was a very long answer, but
That was a great answer. Thank you. Does anyone else have a question? John, hold on to that.
I can actually say something that is not really answering this question, but just a note. So we had an open day this Saturday, and some parents came to see our degree and you know, what we do with students. And of course, I mean, actually not of course, because it was the first time when we got this question: how will AI change this industry, and what sort of jobs will disappear, and how will this degree change? So how do we make sure that what we train students is actually useful when they graduate?
Yeah.
And of course, it's always a delicate thing to answer, because it's, yeah, we do not know yet what will happen. And of course, we also in my research, I'm looking into using AI as a creative partner rather than a substitute for a human. But it seems that there is a lot of worry, and I think that people need to be somehow be introduced to these technologies, but also our mentality needs to point towards using the technologies as a tool and not as a replacement. And I think that it will be a bit difficult to do that with academics, parents, and also students sometimes. So for instance, following the example of Tom and other groups who have used these tools because they decided so, and I decided to support them, I try to introduce this kind of tools for students in our current third year, and they are resistant. So they do not really want to go and explore this deeper. I don't know exactly why, but this is what I've observed. So I think that there is a need for some campaigns, some subscriptions need to be bought for everyone. I don't know.
So, because I'm from computing, so for us, it's probably easier to do these things, because we constantly see that we have to learn every day, pretty much, because my slide has to change every term. There's just no way you can escape from it, because computing is changing so drastically. For AI as well, if you look at AI research, for instance, when ChatGPT actually came, it's changed research of computer science, not just AI, completely. So I agree with what Alex said, because for us, we see we are creating tools, and tools are being created every day. So we start using smartphones. Now, future smartphone will be smarter, became ChatGPT enabled smartphones, but that doesn't change. It's the tool. It's the tool to facilitate, to make us better. But we humans still will be the teacher, student, still the one we eventually need to use it. So hopefully even more conversation between computing students and colleagues with other disciplines might help you to embrace this probably a bit more briefly. I see.
That's a very good point. Thank you. We've had a hand up there for a while. So
Okay, good.
Yeah, well, it's not exactly a question, but linking to the previous questions, I think one thing is academics sometimes, if you turn the clock back, academia is all about finding out new things and changes. I don't think we have to be ahead. We can be open and say we're all learning at the same time. I think there's a fear that this is something new, and it's, we all know our own subject area, our own expertise, and you're comfortable with that. But this is new to everyone. So we can't just sit back and spend a lot of time learning ourselves and not learning with the students. And I think that's a key thing. And, my area is finance. I'm all the time saying we're living in an uncertain world. We've got to be prepared for change happening all the time. And so we don't have the answers. And I think this is it's changing that attitude. But if we're all in it together, we won't feel so isolated. I think that's one thing. The other thing is your seminars that Phil's organised have been fantastic. So I think it gives you a bit more confidence. OK, perhaps we can embark on this pathway. The other thing I just wanted to comment on was, Tom, your explanation in that video. What I really, as an academic and as an assessor, what I was really most impressed by was when you was explaining how you used ChatGPT and how it allowed you to unlock the next part of what you was really doing. So in a way, that in itself was showing you were learning about using the tools to develop what you wanted. So, I could very much assess, from my point of view with assessor's hat, I think I wouldn't have said 80%. I would have said that your work was 120% because you was learning about the technology as well as learning about the particular subject you were studying. So, and I think if we take that attitude, we can build that into our assessments. How did you use AI? What did you learn from it? What were the challenges, etc.? Just an idea.
Yes. Yeah. Was it related to the questions? I think.
No, he's the one of the earliest.
Okay.
Probably the first one.
Hi, I'm just curious that at the moment, a lot of these AI tools are external to what you're doing, using ChatGPT as an add-on or Midjourney as an add-on. As vendors, because I know Adobe are working on this, Unity are working on this, Microsoft are working on this, as they integrate AI into the products, into their core products, how do you feel that will change attitudes to AI and possible adoption of AI in education?
I think that it answers the point. It answers the earlier point that I made of to answer your question, sir. Of the issue is whether or not the individual takes the responsibility to try and become tech literate and interact with AI to get the best outcome of it, or some big centralized thing standardizes it for everyone. I think once Microsoft kind of roll out Windows 12 with ChatGPT 5 automatically installed into it, and suddenly Bixby, their little AI bot that I use on my phone to set my alarms, suddenly becomes my own little Jarvis that I'm walking around with feeling like Iron Man, and it knows my style of music, it knows what I want to read, it knows what I care about in the world, and thus ends up being more of an extension of me in the same way that any other tool would be. This is Matt's stick because it's got my initials into it, that kind of thing. I also kind of want to respond to that by answering the one thing that I've kind of noticed from all of the speakers today. We've all kind of said something to the effect of the same thing, that the output is only as limited as the preciseness of the language that you input into it. So then this kind of answers a previous question as well. With AI, I really appreciated the stance that you were taking, madam, and the point that you just raised, because I think if we stop thinking of it as a hindrance and start appreciating it as almost an opportunity to expose laziness, I think if we try and flip it the other way, we're going to end up seeing, by the time that Microsoft have it embedded into PowerPoint, we'll know who's actually put in the hard work to try and make a presentation and who's cheated it, like I did today. Although that took 2 weeks of laboriously asking AI multiples precise questions to get it to do exactly what I wanted it to do to make this speech and to make that presentation. It wasn't just a click and go. It was a lot of effort to try and do it the lazy way. I don't know. Hope that answers your question in the future.
Yeah, just I think this relates to all the previous discussions. So very much agree with Angela's point that we should be honest that this is also new to us as teachers. And sometimes I feel like it's a big jump, but in my practice, like, you know, in terms of teaching, doing assessment, the jump can be rather small. You know, for example, I teach code as well, you know, for data analytics. The platform I used before is called Colab, free by Google. And then people keep talking about ChatGPT, but there's a competitor called Bard by Google, which gives this handy function, which, you know, you ask, you know, you prompt, and then this can be generated as code, and then this code can be readily made over to the Colab. So this becomes really convenient for students to learn, you know, to copy and then explore and then modify. So that's, I think, you know, just like we have seen in the demos, I think everyone is catching up. You will see a lot of the software tools, they are embracing AI. They have this add-on, you know, additional capability. Maybe we start from something we already know, we have used, and then we can just go from there.
We've got time for one more question, and then we will have to kind of wrap up. So I could probably keep this going all day, but yeah, we have got another session coming in here in about 5 minutes. So, Miles, this one's
I just wanted to add, because it's interesting concept. Who is the cheater? Students. So it kind of brings me to the lecture I gave on nootropic drugs. I taught students on nootropic drugs, and at that time they were saying, who is the cheater? Is it the one who takes nootropic drugs? They are very light stimulants, and then I think it's kind of the same question. We're going back, you know, who is the cheater if you use anything? But actually, students are free to do it. Academics are free to do whatever technology brings us. I completely agree. We have to embrace it. And a couple of things I just wanted to say after attending OECD this year about AI in Paris, and you could see that everybody's really embracing AI. It's just a matter of having those sort of standards in everywhere in healthcare and teaching. So I'm just wondering whether this is something that, you know, we should discuss as academics. You know, we don't want to call a student a cheater. We want to avoid that because we want to embrace technology. And I know the UK is now preparing this AI summit, massive summit, that's going to probably bring those national rules for us. Do we have to come quickly? You know, whether we decide whether it's going to be module specific, depending on the module content, or is it going to be depending on the division, or is it going to be just something? What do you think would be the best way to make sure that we protect our students, but also we protect our lecturers? Because I personally use my own AI for asynchronous learners, and they can just, you know, whenever they fancy, they can interact with me, and I think it's really good for them. But then I don't want to be called a cheater as a lecturer because I have an input, but I mean, no, you also have an input to those projects. So it's just a matter of like a kind of discussion. What do you think would be the best way forward to protect all environment and education, really? Thank you.
So I have a point to answer the question. So I think in cybersecurity, because I'm working on cybersecurity, so you might think cybersecurity is not connected with the AI, but actually it is, which would like to answer your question. I think the future of AI, and also the more powerful AI in the future, which can do even more than what we are doing now, is about trustworthiness. So the trustworthiness is really about, we use something, we need to make sure that we know what we are doing, and we know we can explain to others what we have done, what AI have done. Like Tom's case, it's less about how much work is done by the ChatGPT. It's about, can you actually explain convincingly to others to convince yourself, convince the supervisor, your assessors and others. When that became explainable and transparent, then we all have the freedom to use the tool properly.
Yep.
This is actually a new research area which linking cybersecurity and AI, which hasn't been well done. I believe this is something needs to be done for education.
So sorry, I'm going to have to be the one that spoils the party and stop it there, because we are now just literally 1 minute too. So we're going to have the rest of the other sessions join this one. So I just wanted to say thank you so much to the presenters and also all of the panel, and to all of you for engaging with us today. I think it's been really useful and a really interesting discussion. So thank you.